Why does it feel so cold inside my heart tonight? Be my man is what she said. It's not just the wind that's moving around tonight, but quick and clean don't make it right.
I followed a little drain along through the bush and I've come a fair way away from the car, and here's the drain running down here. So this drain down here, it runs off the main water race, and I got one little tiny one here, and there's been a surfacing where they've used the water, and they haven't taken a great amount of work ground out because it's pretty shallow, but you can see where they've worked right across there, and they've worked it right down, put the thrown the bigger stones out, and there's a bit of the wash there. And they've washed it right back to the clay. They've taken all the surface off, but it wasn't a particularly rich area, I don't believe, because they left these points. They left the higher ground over there behind us. They've worked it back. Here they've taken it back. But if it was real rich, they would have taken a lot out. They would have taken it right across in a big square. And then, thankfully for me, they didn't take out the point because, as I said, I got one little tiny one down there. I legged it back to the car to get Lyndall to ask her to come and film me. So after a bit of a walk back along the drain, and when I was going back, I wasn't confident enough that I'd walk straight in on the signal again. So I've marked it with these two little white stones. So that's my marker. So I didn't want to be like the Lassiter and have the lost reef or a lost signal. There's a signal in there. It's not as even as you might think it'd be if it was gold, but I'm optimistic because we've got the one below us and he's in the wash, so I'll dig him out and see what we've got. But as I said, I found him by following that little spoon drain down. It wasn't a water race as such, it runs off the water race. It's ran a fair way and it's been losing its fall pretty quickly. I knew wherever it was heading for, it was looking to drop down. If it was a water race, it wouldn't lose its fall as quickly, and this is where we ended up. Now this ground is very red. Look how red these stones are, and I think that's the reason that the signal was sort of bouncing around a little bit, because it's like your headlights in the fog. The ground's that red, the signal's jumping around because it's getting backed out by the red ground. You can see the wash and it's all small, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's not rich. The water's come down the hill, but it hasn't come down the big flood. It's come down 1,000 times off the 3 hills that make up this slope, travelled across the gold bearing reefs, but it hasn't had enough force to bring anything of any great size down here. So they've been on small gold, and back in the day, small gold was barely good enough. You know, so they got in and got out. As I said, left the points, which is, by points I mean the high ground, the ground slopes like that. Anywhere that it was high, they've taken a punt on there not being much gold. So they've left it. I've got to get the ground pretty flat because the signal's pretty wayward. But you can see the gravel wash, you can see the little bits of quartz that have travelled down, the various ironstone and all the different types of stones that have travelled down. And you see how it's all small, there's no big stones. And the reason for that is the force, simply the force of the water. The water's been just coming down just like a slow moving creek, and that's about as big as it could carry. It's not going to move those big boulders because it hasn't had the force. Gave myself a fright then because I'd already scraped him out of the hole. See that sort of ironstone, that red ironstone there, that's half a signal in itself. So they're all scattered through there and they're all saying, pick me, And the gold's having trouble making its presence felt. It's in my hand now. Alright, he's on the coil. There he is. There he is. There's no doubt about him now. There he is. He's been carted down. See, anything bigger than that, the water's been that slow moving that it says, no, buggy, or I'll stay here. You can't push me around. And it's stayed up on the hills. And the reason that it's kicked away here, it's come down a long, broad slope. The water's carted it down, and now it's starting to run out onto a ridge. And as soon as it got onto the ridge, the force of the water's turned it to the left to go back down to the creek. And as it's come over the lip, it's lost its grip on the gold and put it here. Lost its grip on all the wash and left it here. When you get down there a little bit, it just turns into silt because it's dropped off the wash here. So that's our third for the day. I'll show you the other ones in case you think you're working for the tax office and you think that I'm making that so much money I should be paying 2 lots of tax. They're the 3 we got for the day. We're not going to get rich, but we've had a good bit of fun. We had a poke around the bush. And if you happen to be locked up due to COVID, I'm willing to bet you'd give that amount of gold to be out here mucking around with us rather than be bloody locked up. So, righto, we've had a good day. We've not finished, but we've got 3 in the canister.